Arizona's summer heat can soar past 110 degrees Fahrenheit, making air conditioning necessary for most. Yet the Amish thrive without it. How? It's not just willpower, but smart design, old school methods, and a deep respect for nature. Before air conditioners, people found natural ways to stay cool, methods the Amish still use today. Thick walls, high ceilings, shade trees, and strategic ventilation keep their homes refreshingly cool, even in the blazing desert heat. Let's dive into their time-tested cooling techniques and why they might not be as crazy as they seem. The Amish have a much smarter trick up their sleeves when it comes to beating the Arizona heat, and it all starts with their homes. Imagine stepping into a deep, shady canyon after hiking under the blazing desert sun. The air instantly cools, your skin stops sizzling, and for a moment, it's as if you've walked into a completely different world. That's exactly what it feels like to step inside an Amish home in the middle of a scorching summer day. Instead of relying on air conditioners humming away like desperate machines fighting an unwinnable battle, the Amish take a different approach, one as old as time itself. Their secret? Thick walls made from nature's building blocks, which are clay, adobe, and wood. These aren't just walls, they're shields, fortresses against the relentless desert sun. Think of it like this. Ever poured coffee into a thick thermos? Hours later, it's still warm because the thermos traps the heat inside. Now, flip that idea. The Amish homes work like giant reverse thermoses, keeping the searing heat out and the cool air in. The science is simple but brilliant. Thicker walls absorb heat at a snail's pace, so by the time the warmth has a chance to creep in, the desert night has already swooped in with its cool, refreshing air. Here's where it gets even better. The materials the Amish use aren't random. Clay and adobe are especially good at soaking up the heat during the day and slowly releasing it at night when temperatures drop. It's like nature's version of a smart thermostat, adjusting the indoor temperature without a single watt of electricity. Wood, another Amish favorite, acts as a natural insulator when paired with clay, helping to stabilize the home's temperature. This prevents sudden spikes in heat. Much like layering up in the winter keeps you warm, but in reverse, layering up the home to keep the heat out. If you were standing outside in the midday sun, unprotected, you'd feel like a cookie baking in an oven. But inside an Amish house, you'd feel like you just stepped into an underground spring, a spring that is calm, cool, and undisturbed by the chaos outside. But here's the thing, the Amish didn't invent this. They're just continuing a tradition that ancient civilizations mastered long before modern technology complicated things. From the sun-baked earthen homes of the Middle East to the sturdy clay dwellings of North Africa, people have been using natural materials to create their own built-in climate control for centuries. The difference? The Amish have held onto this wisdom, refusing to trade in time-tested techniques for modern shortcuts. And it's not just about staying cool, but it's about sustainability. Unlike air conditioning, which consumes vast amounts of electricity, with some Arizona residents paying up to $400 a month just to keep their homes bearable, the Amish's natural cooling system costs them nothing. No energy bills, no maintenance, and no risk of a power outage leaving them sweltering in the heat. While the rest of the world cranks up the aircon and watches the electric bill climb, the Amish sit comfortably in homes designed by nature itself. The Amish have another heat-beating trick up their sleeves, a very cool trick that doesn't require wires, refrigerants, or a sky-high electric bill. It's all about high ceilings. And no, they're not just there to make homes look grand or echo like an old cathedral. They're a simple yet brilliant way to stay cool, using nothing but physics and a little common sense. Here's the deal, the hot air rises. It's the same reason why attic spaces feel like saunas, and why your upstairs bedroom is always a few degrees warmer than downstairs. When the Arizona sun has been roasting everything in sight all day long, the air inside any home naturally starts heating up too. But in an Amish house with high ceilings, that warm air is given a place to go up and away from where people are actually living. I remember walking into an Amish home for the first time, and the towering ceilings were the first thing I noticed. It felt open, airy, like stepping into a personal cooling zone. And then it hit me, or rather, it didn't hit me until now. The heat that would normally make a room feel stuffy was nowhere to be found. Instead, it was high above, trapped where no one was sitting, eating, or working. It was as if the house itself had created a natural buffer zone between me and the sweltering summer air. Now, compare that to modern homes with their standard 8-foot ceilings. The heat has nowhere to escape, so it settles right where you're trying to eat, work, and sleep. It's like being stuck in a car with the windows rolled up on a hot day, making it uncomfortable, stifling, and downright suffocating. But in an Amish home, the high ceilings act like a built in escape route for hot air, keeping the living areas much cooler without lifting a finger. And the numbers back it up. Studies show that homes with higher ceilings can be anywhere from 5 to 10 degrees cooler at the living level than those with lower ceilings. Now, 5 degrees might not sound like much on paper, but in the dead heat of an Arizona summer, that's the difference between feeling like a piece of toast left in the sun and actually being able to sit back and relax. It's a simple, logical system that works perfectly with everything else in an Amish home. Those thick adobe and clay walls we talked about, they help keep the heat from even getting inside in the first place. And when a little warmth does sneak through, the tall ceilings give it a place to rise, far away from the people inside. Add in strategically placed windows to create natural cross ventilation, and suddenly the house becomes its own air conditioning system, without using a single kilowatt of electricity. Let's be honest, most of us don't even think twice about ceiling height when considering how to stay cool. We're too busy adjusting thermostats, positioning fans, and dealing with sky-high electric bills. But the Amish? They solved the problem before it even started. Instead of fighting against the heat, they designed their homes to work with it, proving once again that sometimes the smartest solutions are the simplest ones. The Amish don't just rely on thick walls and high ceilings to keep cool, but they also turn to one of nature's oldest and most reliable allies: trees. It turns out that Mother Nature provides the best air conditioning system, and it doesn't come with a monthly bill. Imagine walking across a blistering hot parking lot in the middle of summer. The asphalt radiates heat like an oven, and every step feels like you're roasting from the ground up. Then, suddenly, you find refuge under a big, leafy tree. The temperature drops instantly, the air feels fresher, and for a moment, it's like you stepped into a whole new climate. That's exactly what the Amish count on when they plant trees around their homes: natural free shade that makes a world of difference. But the Amish don't just plant trees randomly. They've turned tree placement into a science, strategically positioning them on the south and west sides of their homes, where the sun is at its most brutal. These trees act like giant umbrellas, blocking out the fiercest rays and keeping their houses cooler for longer. In fact, a well-placed tree can reduce cooling costs by up to 25%, which is a huge advantage when you're living in the Arizona heat and don't have an aircon unit to fall back on. And the benefits don't stop there. Trees aren't just passive shade providers, but they also actively cool the surrounding air through a process called evapotranspiration. Sounds fancy, but all it means is that trees release moisture into the air, creating a natural cooling effect. Studies show that the air under a tree can be up to 10 degrees cooler than air exposed to full sun. That's not just a minor difference, it's the difference between feeling like you're standing in front of an open oven and actually being able to breathe. And the Amish don't stop at shading their homes. They plant trees around their workspaces, barns, and even fields, ensuring that they always have a shady retreat when the midday sun is at its worst. Imagine working outside all day in the blazing Arizona heat. Most of us would be scrambling for an air-conditioned break. But the Amish? They planned ahead, designing their entire environment to work with nature, not against it. Here's something to think about before air conditioning. People all over the world relied on trees for cooling. Yet somewhere along the way, modern society traded trees for machines and forgot how effective this simple, natural solution really is. The Amish, however, never abandoned it. To them, a well-placed tree is worth more than the most powerful aircon unit. It doesn't break, it doesn't need electricity, and it works year after year without fail. So, while most people are inside, blasting their aircon and watching their energy bills climb, the Amish sit comfortably in the shade of their trees, letting nature do what it does best. Maybe it's time we took a page out of their book. The Amish have yet another trick up their sleeves when it comes to beating the heat, and it's as old school as it gets. No air conditioners humming away, no ceiling fans chopping through stale air, just fresh, natural wind flowing through their homes like an invisible cooling system. They call it cross ventilation, and it's proof that sometimes the best solutions don't require a power outlet. Think about what happens when you leave your car parked in the sun with all the windows rolled up. Within minutes, the air inside turns thick and stifling, like an oven trapping every degree of heat. Now, crack open two windows on opposite sides, and suddenly a fresh breeze rushes through, carrying the heavy, suffocating air out and replacing it with something far more breathable. That's the magic of cross ventilation, and the Amish have perfected the art. But they don't just throw open every window and hope for the best. They've turned ventilation into a science. They know exactly which windows to open at different times of the day, depending on how the wind moves and where the sun is shining. As the sun shifts, so do their window positions, maximizing airflow and cooling power. This carefully timed dance between air and architecture ensures that warm air is gently pushed out while cooler air is pulled in, creating a natural airflow that turns their homes into breezy sanctuaries, even in the peak of summer. I once stepped into an Amish home on a brutally hot afternoon, expecting to feel the same heat from outside. But instead, I was greeted by a soft, steady breeze, as if the house itself was breathing. No fans, no aircon, just the smart placement of windows, working with nature instead of against it. When I asked how they did it, the homeowner just smiled and said, "We let the wind do the work." Modern homes, on the other hand, often miss out on this natural advantage. Sealed up tight with thick insulation, closed off rooms, and rarely opened windows, they force people to rely on artificial cooling systems to survive the heat. The result? Higher energy bills, mechanical breakdowns, and homes that feel suffocating the moment the aircon stops running. But the Amish? They've designed their homes to breathe. By combining cross ventilation with high ceilings, they create a system where hot air rises and exits, while cool air naturally circulates where people actually live. It's simple, it's efficient, and best of all, it doesn't cost them a dime. So, while most of us are busy adjusting thermostats and paying sky-high electricity bills, the Amish sit back and let the wind keep them cool, just as nature intended. Maybe it's time we rethink how we design our homes. Cooking indoors on a scorching summer day is like lighting a bonfire in your living room. It doesn't take long before the whole house feels like an oven. But the Amish have a clever way of dodging this problem: summer kitchens. These aren't just quaint outdoor cooking spaces, they're a smart and strategic way to keep the heat exactly where it belongs, outside. Imagine baking bread or simmering a hearty stew in the middle of July. In most homes, the heat from the stove spreads like wildfire, making the air thick and stuffy. But Amish homes? They stay refreshingly cool because all that cooking happens in a separate space, either in a small building next to the house or an open air kitchen attached to it. This way, dinner gets made without turning the entire home into a sauna. And this isn't just about comfort, it's about efficiency. Cooking alone can raise indoor temperatures by as much as 10 degrees Fahrenheit, forcing modern households to crank up the aircon just to counteract their own kitchens. But the Amish, ever resourceful, saw a simple solution. If heat rises, don't let it rise inside. This idea isn't unique to the Amish either. It's a time-tested trick that people around the world have used for generations. Think of traditional outdoor clay ovens in Mediterranean homes or open-air kitchens in tropical regions, places where intense heat demands creative cooling solutions. The logic is universal. Keep the heat where it can escape easily instead of trapping it indoors. And let's not forget the added bonus: cooking in a summer kitchen can feel like an event rather than a chore. Imagine gathering around a wood-fired oven, fresh bread baking, and a gentle evening breeze carrying the aroma through the air. It turns mealtime into an experience, one that feels a lot more connected to nature than standing over an electric stove under fluorescent lights. While most people today battle the heat they create in their own kitchens by relying on aircon units, the Amish take a different, more practical approach. By cooking outside, they let nature handle temperature control, proving once again that sometimes the smartest solutions are the simplest ones. In a world where refrigerators hum in every kitchen, it's hard to imagine keeping food fresh without one, especially in the scorching Arizona heat. But the Amish have a trick up their sleeves that's as old as time: ice houses. These aren't just makeshift coolers, they're carefully designed, electricity-free freezers that keep food chilled for months using nothing but nature's own resources. Picture this. It's the dead of winter, and while most people are just trying to stay warm, the Amish are out harvesting massive blocks of ice from frozen ponds and lakes. These ice blocks, thick, solid, and heavy, are then stacked deep inside insulated pits or sturdy wooden ice houses, packed tightly together like puzzle pieces. To slow the melting process, they cover the ice with layers of sawdust or straw, nature's version of an insulated blanket. And just like that, they've built a freezer that lasts well into the peak of summer. This might sound old-fashioned, but the system is incredibly effective. Even when the Arizona sun is blazing at 110 degrees Fahrenheit, the ice inside these storage pits remains solid, keeping milk, meat, and other perishables fresh for months. The Amish don't rely on electricity, compressors, or Freon, just good old-fashioned winter preparation and smart insulation. And let's not forget the biggest perk: no electricity bills. While modern households rack up expenses to keep their fridges and freezers running 24/7, the Amish enjoy a cooling method that costs them nothing beyond the effort of harvesting and storing the ice. No breakdowns, no repairs, no energy waste, just a self-sustaining system that has worked for centuries. I once tried to replicate this idea myself, placing a few ice trays in an insulated box with a fan. Spoiler alert, it didn't work. The Amish, however, have mastered the art, proving once again that sometimes the best technology isn't technology at all. At first glance, Amish clothing might seem like the worst choice for surviving the Arizona heat. Long sleeves, heavy dresses, wide-brimmed hats. Wouldn't all those layers just trap heat and make things worse? Surprisingly, it's the exact opposite. The Amish have tapped into the same wisdom that desert nomads have known for centuries. The right clothing doesn't just cover you, it keeps you cool. Think about standing in direct sunlight on a hot day. If your skin is exposed, the sun's rays hit you full force, heating you up like a frying pan on a stove. But if you're wearing loose, light-colored clothing, it creates a protective barrier, blocking the heat and allowing air to circulate. Instead of trapping warmth, the fabric works like a personal shade, keeping the body's temperature more stable. And it's not just about comfort, it's about protection. The Amish long-sleeved shirts and dresses act as a shield against the sun's rays, reducing the risk of sunburn and heat exhaustion. The loose-fitting design ensures that air can move freely, helping sweat evaporate naturally, nature's built-in cooling system. Then there are the wide-brimmed hats, an essential piece of the Amish wardrobe. Just like a tree provides cooling shade, these hats shield the face and neck from the harshest rays, keeping the most sensitive parts of the body from overheating. It's the same reason people in scorching deserts wear head coverings, not to make things hotter, but to block direct sunlight and regulate body temperature. Modern society, on the other hand, often leans toward shorts and tank tops to combat the heat. But by exposing more skin, you're actually making yourself a direct target for the sun's heat. The Amish, however, rely on a time-tested technique: cover up, stay shaded, and let the clothes do the cooling for you. It's yet another example of working with nature instead of against it. The Amish approach to staying cool isn't just about clever tricks or architectural hacks, it's a mindset. While most people try to fight the heat with air conditioners, fans, and energy-draining appliances, the Amish take a different approach. They adapt. Instead of resisting the climate, they embrace it, using time-tested methods that have worked for centuries. By working with nature rather than against it, they manage to stay comfortable in ways that are simple, sustainable, and incredibly effective. Their homes are designed to breathe, their clothing works as natural insulation, and their daily routines align with the environment, all without relying on modern technology. It's a way of life that prioritizes resilience over convenience, and maybe, just maybe, there's something we can learn from them after all. If you love this video, you'll love the next one more.